My name is Clara, and I officially entered my early 30s last month. After what felt like a lifetime of hoarding every spare dollar from my career as a data scientist, I finally closed on the house I'd only ever seen in my dreams. It was a charming 1920s bungalow. I spent weeks pouring my soul into, sanding floors and painting walls until it was a perfect reflection of everything I'd accomplished. I envisioned it as the stage for a housewarming party, the one event where my family would have no choice but to see me, to finally acknowledge the life I had built. I designed and mailed elegant invitations a full 3 weeks ahead of the date. But as the designated Saturday afternoon ticked by, my newly polished living room, filled with the aroma of carefully prepared food, remained cavernously empty. 2 o'clock came and went. Then 3. No one showed up. Later, numbly scrolling through my phone, I stumbled upon the truth on Instagram, a discovery so devastating it felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Before I get into the wreckage of that day, I want you to know this isn't just a story about a party. It's about the moment I realized the family I was born into wasn't the one I was meant to have. Growing up in a cramped house on the outskirts of Portland always felt like a game of musical chairs with one too many people. The space wasn't the problem. It was the suffocating presence of my younger brother, Leo. I was 3 when he was born, and it was as if a switch flipped in our house. The entire universe of our family tilted on its axis and began to revolve solely around him. My parents, Helen and Richard, were good people at their core, but they possessed a blind spot the size of the Pacific Northwest when it came to their 2 children. In their eyes, Leo was infallible, a prince who could do no wrong. Meanwhile, I felt like I was screaming for attention in a soundproof room. I'd bring home a report card glittering with straight A's, and it would earn a perfunctory spot on the fridge for a day or 2. But when Leo managed to scrape by with a B- in a single class, my parents would throw a celebratory dinner, complete with his favorite dessert and a new video game. "Your brother just needs a little more encouragement, honey," my mother would say with a placating smile whenever I'd dare to question the blatant disparity. "You've always been so self-reliant, Clara." At 10 years old, self-reliant felt less like a compliment and more like a sentence for neglect. I didn't want to be independent. I wanted what every kid wants, to know my parents were proud of me. But in our family, approval was a finite resource, and Leo held a monopoly on it. High school was a blur of frantic overachievement. I became captain of the debate team, editor of the school paper, and ultimately valedictorian. My graduation speech earned a standing ovation from the entire auditorium, a sea of strangers cheering for me. The only people who remained seated were my own family. I watched from the stage as my father conspicuously checked his watch, while my mother aimed her phone not at me, but at Leo, capturing him playing a game. She later offered a flimsy apology, claiming the bad lighting prevented her from getting any good footage of my moment. College was no different. I juggled 2 jobs to pay my way through my first 2 years before finally earning a full-ride scholarship. My parents, in contrast, footed the entire bill for Leo's meandering education, even as he changed his major with the turning of the seasons. "Your brother is still finding his path," Helen explained, her voice laced with that familiar tone of defensive justification. "Not everyone has it all figured out like you do, Clara." After graduating with honors, I landed a coveted position at a major tech firm. My starting salary was more than my parents made combined. When I called to share the news, my mother's response was lukewarm. "Oh, that's wonderful, dear," she said, her distraction palpable through the phone. "Listen, did I tell you Leo is thinking of going back to school for photography? We're so thrilled he's found a new passion." Over the years, I clawed my way up the corporate ladder, earning promotions and respect from my peers, all while living in a tiny studio apartment to save for my one true goal, a home of my own. Through it all, my best friend Maya was my anchor. We'd met in a coding boot camp and instantly connected. Unlike my family, Maya celebrated every win with me, from a successful project launch to finding the perfect pair of shoes on sale. "Their opinion doesn't define your worth, Clara," she'd remind me over countless cups of coffee. "They're the ones missing out on knowing how incredible you are." I knew she was right, but a stubborn, wounded part of me still craved their validation. I clung to the belief that if I just became successful enough, they would finally have to see me. 3 months ago, a major promotion to lead data architect finally put my dream of homeownership within reach. I called my parents, my heart pounding with excitement. "That's great, honey," my father said, his voice distant. "Hey, can I call you back? Leo just got a part-time job at that bookstore downtown, and we're taking him out to celebrate." A bookstore job. They were celebrating a minimum wage, part-time job for my 29-year-old brother, while my promotion to a senior leadership role barely registered. That night, a cold resolve settled over me. I wasn't just going to buy a house. I was going to buy my dream house. And when they walked through the front door and saw what I had built, they would finally understand. They would finally be proud. "Are you sure you're doing this for you?" Maya asked gently when I told her my plan, her brow furrowed with concern. A house is a massive commitment. It shouldn't be about trying to impress them. "It is for me," I insisted, though in my mind's eye, all I could see was the look of shock and awe on my mother's face. But it wouldn't kill them to finally admit I've done okay for myself. I had no idea that my desperate quest for their approval was on a collision course with a family dysfunction so deeply rooted that no amount of success, no beautiful home, could ever hope to fix it. My hunt for a house began on a typically drizzly Portland Saturday. Clutching a pre-approval letter and a meticulously organized binder of requirements, I met with my realtor, Brenda, a sharp, no-nonsense woman who navigated the city's cutthroat market like a seasoned general. "The market is a war zone right now," she warned, her eyes scanning her monitor. "Good places are gone in hours. You need to be decisive." I was ready. I wanted a craftsman bungalow with built-in character, 3 bedrooms, and a yard big enough for a vegetable garden. The first month was a soul-crushing parade of disappointment. We saw dozens of houses. Some were sterile new builds that lacked any warmth. Others were charming but required a budget-breaking amount of work. I put in 5 offers, each one confidently written, only to be crushed by all-cash buyers. Maybe I should just settle for a condo, I lamented to Maya one night, staring at yet another rejection email. "Don't you dare," she said firmly. "This is your dream. The right one is out there." Then, in March, Brenda called, her voice electric with excitement. "I found it, Clara. It just listed. It checks every single box. We have to go now." The moment I stepped onto the wide, welcoming porch of the 1920s bungalow on Maple Street, I felt it. A deep, resonant hum of belonging. It wasn't perfect. The kitchen was a time capsule from the 70s and the yard was a jungle, but I could see its potential shining through the neglect. Sunlight streamed through original stained glass windows, painting the scuffed hardwood floors in jewels of colored light. The built-in bookshelves flanking the fireplace looked like they were made for my collection of sci-fi novels and technical manuals. That night, I wrote an offer well above asking and attached a personal letter, pouring my heart out about my vision for the home. 2 agonizing days later, it was accepted. The next 2 months were a whirlwind of inspections, mountains of paperwork, and frantic planning. The inspection revealed a leaky roof and an ancient electrical panel, stretching my budget to its breaking point. "Are you sure you can handle all this?" my father asked during a rare phone call, his tone laced with doubt. "Maybe you should have started smaller." "I've got it under control," I said through gritted teeth, picturing the detailed spreadsheets that mapped out every single penny of the renovation. Closing day was a terrifying, exhilarating blur. As I signed my name over and over, the reality crashed down on me. This beautiful, flawed, magnificent house was mine. I took 2 weeks off work and dove into the renovations. I tore out the old kitchen myself, replacing it with soft gray cabinets and energy-efficient appliances. Every night, caked in drywall dust and paint, I'd sit on the porch with a glass of cheap wine and dream. I pictured my family gathered in the dining room for Thanksgiving, their faces alight with admiration. I imagined my mother's gasp of surprise, my father's grudging nod of approval. The fantasy fueled me through the financial strain. When restoring the original hardwood floors cost 3 times my estimate, I ate instant noodles for 2 weeks straight to cover the difference. By the end of April, the house was transformed. I moved in on a sunny weekend, with Maya and a few friends helping me haul boxes. That night, alone amidst the towers of cardboard, I made a decision. It was time. I would throw a housewarming party, a perfect, elegant affair that would finally force my family to see what I had accomplished. I designed custom invitations, even finding an old photo of a craftsman house my mother had once clipped from a magazine. "Remember how you always loved these homes?" I wrote. "I can't wait to show you mine." My mother texted back almost immediately. "How lovely, dear. We'll be there." For the first time in years, I let myself feel a sliver of hope. As the party date neared, my excitement morphed into a kind of manic energy. I scrubbed baseboards, polished windows, and even disassembled light fixtures to clean them. "You know regular people don't do this, right?" Maya laughed, helping me dust. "This isn't a regular party," I said, deadly serious. "This is for my family." The menu was a strategic masterpiece, each dish chosen to cater to a specific family member's tastes. I even called my mother for advice. "Do you think Leo still likes those chocolate raspberry brownies?" I asked. "Oh, honey, you know your brother. He'll eat anything," she laughed. "He's so excited to see your place." Her words were like gasoline on the fire of my anticipation. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was the moment our fractured relationship would finally start to mend. A week before the party, a strange text came from my cousin, Jessica. "So excited for Saturday." A little confused though. Leo mentioned he was having people over to his new place too. A knot of ice formed in my stomach. I called my mother instantly. "Oh, didn't Leo tell you?" she said, her tone infuriatingly casual. "He just got a little one-bedroom apartment. He mentioned having a few friends over, but I'm sure it's nothing that will conflict." I pushed down the rising dread. The day before the party, I confirmed with everyone. My parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, all reconfirmed. Leo never answered my text, but my mother assured me he was coming. On the day of the party, I was a whirlwind of nervous energy. I woke at dawn, arranging flowers and baking rolls. At 1 o'clock, an hour before guests were due to arrive, I stood in my immaculate living room, taking a deep, shaky breath. The house was perfect. The food was perfect. In just 60 minutes, my family would walk through that door, and all the years of striving, all the loneliness and hard work would finally pay off. I would finally be the one in the spotlight. I had no way of knowing that at that very moment, my entire family was gathering across town for a celebration that had nothing to do with me. At 2:15, a chilling silence still filled the house. I sent a breezy text to my mother. "Everything's ready. On your way?" Her reply took ages. "Running a bit behind. Start without us." Start without them? They were the reason for the party. By 2:45, panic was clawing at my throat. I called my mom and dad, but both calls went straight to voicemail. I called my Aunt Carol, who had RSVP'd with 3 exclamation points. "Oh, Harmony, honey," she said, her voice dripping with a guilt she didn't even try to hide. "I'm so sorry. I thought someone would have told you. We're at Leo's new apartment. He decided to have a little get-together today, too. We just assumed yours had been rescheduled." The world tilted on its axis. "No," I said, my own voice sounding alien and distant. "My party wasn't rescheduled. It's happening right now." With trembling hands, I texted Maya. "No one is coming. They're all at Leo's." Her reply was instant. "What?" "I'm on my way." I sank onto my perfectly fluffed sofa, staring at the feast that would go uneaten. The truth hit me with the force of a physical blow. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a choice. Just as Maya arrived, I opened Instagram. There it was. A story from my cousin Jessica, location tagged Leo's new place. The video panned across a cramped, generic apartment, packed with my entire family. My mother was in the center, beaming, her arm wrapped proudly around Leo. My father was in the background, laughing with my uncle. More posts appeared. My aunt, captioning a photo of Leo giving a toast. My mother, posting a picture of his tiny kitchen. So proud of my boy's first apartment. #milestone, #proudmom. Each image was a fresh stab of betrayal. Everyone I had invited, everyone who had confirmed, was there. At Leo's. This was deliberate, I whispered, the sickening realization curdling in my gut. He scheduled this on purpose, and they all chose him. Again. Maya's face was flushed with a rage I was too numb to feel. This is monstrous, Clara. It's calculated cruelty. She led me to the dining room, and we filled plates with food that tasted like ash in my mouth. She popped the champagne I'd been saving. To your beautiful home, she said, her voice fierce. Their loss. As evening fell, the warm, strategic lighting I had installed now only illuminated the crushing emptiness of the rooms. Just then, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. We need to talk. Now. Hours later, after she and the rest of the family had celebrated my brother, my mother stood on my porch, her expression a practiced mask of concern. Harmony, she began, stepping inside, her eyes immediately scanning, appraising, judging. Well, you certainly went all out, didn't you? This must have cost a fortune. Why are you here, Mom? I asked, my voice flat. I wanted to explain about today, she said, settling onto my sofa. There was a terrible miscommunication. A miscommunication? I echoed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. You mean the kind where every single person who RSVP'd to my party intentionally goes to my brother's instead? That kind. Her composure cracked. Don't take that tone with me. Tyler didn't realize it was the same day. He needs our support. He's 29 years old. I shot back, the dam of my composure finally breaking. When do I get to matter? When do I get support? Her face hardened into a familiar mask of righteous indignation. Is that what this house is about? Trying to make yourself matter? Because honestly, Clara, it just looks like you're showing off. Like you're trying to make the rest of us feel bad. The accusations stole my breath. My dream, my hard work, twisted into an act of aggression. Tyler feels like you deliberately bought this place to overshadow his achievement, she continued, her voice rising. And instead of being supportive, you're making this all about you. In that moment, a lifetime of desperate, hopeful striving shattered. The whole endeavor was pointless. They would never see me. They were determined not to. Get out, I said, my voice quiet but steady. Excuse me? Get out of my house, I repeated, a strange calm washing over me. I didn't buy it for you. I didn't buy it to compete with Leo. I bought it for me. And I don't have to justify it to people who couldn't even be bothered to show up. She stood, her face flushed with fury. Fine. But don't come crying to us when you're ready to apologize for your attitude and show some support for your brother. At the door, she turned. And maybe you should think about why you're really so upset. Is it because we missed your party, or because for once, the attention was on Tyler instead of you? The absurdity of her final jab, for once, hung in the empty air long after the door slammed shut. I was alone, but for the first time, I could see the bars of the cage I'd been living in. The next morning, my phone was flooded with texts from family members, all parroting the same unfortunate confusion narrative. Not a single apology. Then my doorbell rang. It was my father, looking older and more tired than I'd ever seen him. Your mother doesn't know I'm here, he said, stepping inside. Unlike my mother, he looked around with genuine curiosity, running a hand over the smooth wood of the banister. We sat at the kitchen table, and he took a deep breath. Tyler knew exactly what he was doing, Clara. He saw your invitations. He chose the same day on purpose. He told everyone they had to choose. Hearing it confirmed was a fresh wound, but also a relief. And you all let him, I stated, not as a question. We did, he admitted, his gaze fixed on the table. I'm ashamed of it. I told your mother that last night. I told her we've been unfair to you your entire life, and that what happened yesterday was cruel. I stared at him, stunned. My parents never disagreed, especially about Leo. I told her I was ashamed of how we've failed as parents, he said, finally meeting my eyes. You deserved better. I let her approach dominate because it was easier. I told myself you were strong enough to handle it. I was a child, Dad, I whispered. I know, he said, his voice thick with regret. I am so sorry. His apology couldn't erase decades of hurt, but it was a start. It was an acknowledgement. As he was leaving, he paused. This house, your grandfather would have loved this. He was a craftsman. He would have been proud of you, Clara. I'm proud of you. That evening, a text from Leo popped up. Hope you're happy. Mom and Dad are fighting because of your drama. In the past, I would have scrambled to smooth things over, to take the blame. Instead, I turned off my phone, walked into my beautiful bedroom, and for the first time in my life, I chose myself. It felt like breathing after being held underwater. In the weeks that followed, I started therapy. My therapist, Dr. Reed, gave me words for my experience. Golden child. Family scapegoat. Understanding the dynamics helped me depersonalize the pain. It wasn't about me being unlovable. It was about the role I'd been cast in. I poured my energy into my sanctuary. I planted a sprawling garden, built bookshelves, and learned to fix a leaky faucet. I was literally building a life on my own terms. 3 weeks after the disaster, I threw another party, a home celebration. I invited my real family, Maya, my friends, my supportive colleagues, and my kind neighbors. My house was filled with laughter and genuine warmth. It was everything the first party was supposed to be. My father continued to visit, slowly and awkwardly rebuilding our relationship. On one visit, he gave me a small, worn cedar box. It was your grandfather's, he said. I thought you should have it. I placed it on my bedside table, a reminder that being truly seen by a few is worth more than chasing the approval of many. Months later, my mother called. I drove by your house, she said, her voice strained. The garden looks nice. It was the beginning of a long, difficult conversation. I'm not good at this, Clara, she admitted, a rare crack in her armor. I'm beginning to understand. I've been unfair. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was honest. She asked if she could visit, alone, to see the house properly. When she came, she looked at my home not as a threat or a statement, but as my creation. She asked questions. She listened. In the garden, she touched a tomato plant. Your grandmother would have approved, she said softly. She would say you understand the balance between control and letting things grow. Later in the entryway, she finally said the words. I haven't been a good mother to you. I can't promise I'll change overnight, but I am trying to see. It wasn't a magical fix, but it was a crack of light in a door that had been sealed shut for 30 years. That evening, I sat on my porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple. My house had been the catalyst for a painful breakdown, but it had also become the crucible for my healing. It was the place I learned that my worth wasn't a commodity to be earned through achievement. It was inherent. My future with my family is still uncertain, but I am not. Within these walls, surrounded by a life I built and a community I chose, I had finally, truly, come home.